Question: following the expansion of Muslim rule beyond the confines of Arabia, was Sharia imposed on non-Muslims? This question is related to how Islamic Sharia was implemented in history on non-Muslims. To begin with, we have the following reports from the period of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of God be on him. Imam Muslim in his Sahih reports a case which the Jews brought to the notice of Prophet Muhammad to give his judgment. Narrated Ibn Umar, a Jew and a Jewess were brought to Allah's Messenger ﷺ on a charge of committing illegal sexual intercourse. The Prophet asked them, "What is the legal punishment for this sin in your book, that is the Torah?" They replied, "Our priests have innovated the punishment of blackening the faces with charcoal and tajbiyah." Abdullah bin Salam said, "O Allah's Messenger, tell them to bring the Torah." The Torah was brought, and then one of the Jews put his hand on the verse of the Rajam, that is stoning to death, and started reading what preceded and what followed it. On that, Ibn Salam said to the Jew, "Lift up your hand." Behold, the verse of stoning was under his hand. So Allah's apostle ordered that the two be stoned to death, and so they were stoned. Bukhari, Hadith 6819. Now, according to this report, the Prophet asked the Jews about the punishment of adultery in the Torah, which gives support to the idea that he did not implement the Muslim religious law on them. Also clear from this report is that the Prophet only gave his judgment when the Jews themselves brought this case to his court. This approach of the Prophet is in accordance with the following directive of the Quran, as stated in the 5th chapter, ayat 42 and 43. It reads, "Thus, if they come to you for verdicts, it is up to you to give a verdict or ignore them. If you ignore them, they will not be able to inflict any harm on you, and if you give your decision, it is essential that you decide between them with justice, because God likes those who give a just verdict." How do they make you give a verdict even though they have the Torah with them, which contains God's own verdict? Then, after turning to you for a verdict, they defy it as well. In reality, they are not even people who believe. Commenting on Ayah 42, Ustaz Javed Ahmed Ghamidi writes, "It is evident from the words of this verse that if the people of the book living under an Islamic government want to decide their affairs according to their Sharia and from the courts of their own scholars and jurists, there is no hindrance in this. It is also apparent from verses further ahead that this is pleasing to God. The reason is that until the time they profess faith in the Quran, it is only befitting for them that they turn to the Torah and the Gospel. These are the books of God, and no Muslim can be audacious enough to stop them from following the books of God." Another example can be cited from the period after that of Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of God be on him. Arafah ibn al-Haris Kindi, speaking to Amr ibn al-As, may God be pleased with him, about the Dhimmis, is reported to have said, "We have only given our word to them that we will not stop them from their places of worship. They can do whatever they want in their places of worship, and that we will not burden them beyond their capacity, and that in the case of any external attack, we will fight in their defense, and that we will not stop them from following their religious laws, except if they choose to come to us to be judged by our religious laws, in which case we shall give our verdict according to the ruling of God and His Messenger. But if they will not bring their matter to us, then we shall not interfere in their matter." Hearing this, Amr ibn al-As affirmed its correctness. Quoted from Sunan Bayhaqi, Hadith 18,490. We also do not find any evidence in the judicial rulings from the period of the companions of Prophet Muhammad that Islamic laws were applied to non-Muslims. In fact, Ibn Shihab Zuhri states the practice of the 2 generations following the death of Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of God be on him, as follows. Quoting from Musannaf Abd al-Razzaq, Hadith 10,007, it reads, "The continuous practice regarding the Dhimmi population has been that the matters of their mutual disputes and inheritance are referred to their co-religionists, except if they themselves turn to us in some criminal case. Then we will judge between them according to the Book of God." According to this report, even in criminal cases, it is essential for non-Muslims to approach the Muslim courts in order to be judged by them. It is reported that when a Muslim man committed adultery with a non-Muslim woman, Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu gave the verdict that the Muslim be punished according to the Islamic Had law and the woman be handed over to her people for their own verdict. Musannaf Abd al-Razzaq, Hadith 10,005. Muslim scholar Imam Sarakhsi writes in his commentary on Imam Shaybani's As-Sir al-Kabir, "In view of the pact of Dhimma, we do not even stop them, that is, the Dhimmis, from the major sins such as drinking and having pork." In conclusion, John Bagot Glubb writes in his book The Life and Times of Muhammad, he says, "We are thus obliged to admit that in the early Arab conquests, Jews and Christians were not compelled by them to become Muslims, nor indeed did they do so. For many generations after the conquest, the majority of Syrians retained the Christian faith. Indeed, the Lebanese have continued to do so until the present day. Not only so, but Jews and Christians were permitted to observe their own laws, which were applied by their own judges. According to Muslim ideas, law arose from religion. Their own laws were derived from the Quran and the traditions. If, therefore, Jews and Christians were not obliged to become Muslims, it followed that they should not be compelled to observe Muslim laws. Each religion should follow the laws prescribed by its own faith." We hope this answers the question.